was fairly taboo.
Right.
But my mother was a amazing, strong, beautiful ex-model. She modeled. She was an actress. She had a black belt. She was a Buddhist. I was born to two Buddhists, two Black Panther Buddhists. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So there was Black Panthers. They were Buddhists. They, really outside successful. And it was 1980, and she died by suicide, but she died even by suicide in a way that was against all stereotypes. You know what I mean? Being Black, being a woman, it's 1980, and by gun in a public place. Like, it was a very intense. It wasn't like somebody found her at home. She sat at the foot of a statue in front of the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago. And on Sunday, August 10th, 1980, at about 9 a.m., in a park, she shot herself in the head.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Music and Nostalgia. We are here live for another episode, and what's really great is we're in the middle, or at the end of Black History Month. We know Black History runs 365 days a year, but we have this one month that's specifically annotated for it, right? And I got the chance to bring on one of my good friends, Big Bro, father of geniuses. Chicago native, but he does everything from A to Z right now, right? Phoenix, Arizona, genius. One of the biggest hearts I know. Poet, ran the largest poetry set that I have ever heard of, and I'm quite certain the largest in the entire nation. For years out in Arizona, one of the most genuine brothers I know, down to earth, good friend, and somebody that's going to blow your mind. So please welcome to the show today, the brother you see off to the side of me here, Harold Branch, or as affectionately known as HB. Bro, what's going on, sir?
What up, family? How you doing, brother? Thank you for having me. You know what I mean? I appreciate it.
No doubt, no doubt. I've been at the moment I decided I was going to do this podcast, you're one of the people that I said has to be on the show. And it was mandatory for me to hunt you down. And it just happened to work out that our schedules aligned, that we could have this opportunity today for Black History Month, right? And so much historic things keep happening. Like, let's off rip, let's talk about your kids. Like, I don't even, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Right. But like I mentioned, father of geniuses, right? Let the world know a little bit about like age and stage where they are, not just like credential wise, right? But like the heart, like we talk, right? We friends here.
Oh yeah, you my man. So yeah, man, super proud of them. But before, man, they just such a gracious intro, you know what I mean? Gracious introduction, and I appreciate it, man. Just that honor. I appreciate you pulling out the good hat for your boy. You know what I'm saying? The beard is looking luxurious and whatnot. You know what I mean? And so it's just always good to see you, man. And I appreciate you a lot. I do. I got two beautiful kids. My daughter is 13, just turned 13 at the end of January. My son is 16 years old. My daughter Ella Rose Branch, named after my mom, and my son is Harold Gregory Branch the fourth. So we call him Quattro. So Ella and Quattro. Ella is 13 and freshman in high school. She got into high school at the age of 12, going to an extremely gifted high school. And she's amazing. She's brilliant, just scholarships after scholarships. Just recently, she, in addition to knocking out her physics and, all of that, taking classes I never got to take in high school and even in college, some of them. But she was just named a Smith Group Scholar. Smith Group is the oldest architecture firm in the United States. And because of how gifted she is with music, fashion, art, drawing, concepts, as well as engineering and physics and science And math, she was named one of the Smith Group Scholars, and that's the first time they've stepped into dealing with high school students. Normally, it's just college students that they're trying to move into the architecture world. And she's the youngest, and because she was 12 when this happened, then she was the youngest ever in history since like 1863 to be considered to be a Smith Group Scholar, which is dope. She started getting her letters from colleges, kind of trying to get at her when she was 11 years old, which was really, really fly. So she got several colleges trying to, lock her down already, which is awesome.
Major.
Quattro. I say again?
I said that was major.
Oh, super major. And, Quattro led the way, as a big brother should. When he was 9, he took the ACTs and scored a 21 when he was 9, which was awesome. Black Enterprise Magazine did an article on me and my
Remember that?
Yeah, about co-parenting genius Black children, or what have you, as a divorced dad. So that was super dope, right? That was amazing. Now he is he was getting, man, all the universe, everybody was trying to get at him. It was weird seeing him saying, yeah, I'm not going to go to MIT yet, or Harvard. I'm going to save that for grad school. So he's at Arizona State University. He was done with high school. He could have went at 14, but we held him back a couple years. So he's 16, just finished his first semester in biomedical engineering major, and killing it, just absolutely doing his thing, full ride and scholarships, and just a brainiac. But both of them extremely social, extremely happy. That's the most important thing, man. They're happy kids. Very social, very connected to their age, right? My daughter loves being 12, 13, and she has 13, thank God. And my son's 16 and maneuvering to college, but not wilding out, man. I just been blessed, haven't had a lot of the challenges that a lot of, other parents and my friends and some of my young people just struggling in different ways, right? I work in that world, and done work in that world for a long time. So I realize how blessed I am to have those spirits that I get to guide on this journey, right? So I love them, but I respect them a lot, and I admire them, and they keep me going. Part of the reason why I went back to school myself, right? So very proud of them.
A family of geniuses here. You're like the Incredibles, but real.
I think they may be the only two. I don't know if I'm working on it though.
Hey, listen. At least you leading the charge, bro. So we got a little Black history fact for y'all. The first and the youngest, should I say, to ever be in the Smith Group, to ever be in that. I mean, that's something that needs to be touted and recognized. Yeah. So that's dope, man. That's huge. And of course, Quattro just blew me out when you said that. He said, "I don't think I'm gonna go to MIT yet." I remember growing up, that was one of my dreams. I wanted to go to MIT, and I realized as I matriculated through high school, I was like, "Yeah, MIT is a NOT for me right now. Like, it ain't happening." So that's beautiful to see that he had such great options. And I remember, what people don't know, and I'll let the world know, is I've known you since 2004, right? You got to know me a little later, right? But it's been amazing to see, one, your heart and the way you really share yourself, your knowledge, and your honor for those that have come before you in such a powerful way. So this is why it's such an honor, because, man, I've seen you serve from the depths of your soul. I memorized, for the world, I said poet, right? I memorized some of your poetry, that when you went up on stage, I was in the audience just spitting lines. I didn't memorize the entire thing, but I was spitting lines.
Right.
Real quick, this look right here, the shirt and the hat, is in honor of one of your pieces, actually. Superman.
No sick days.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
So, so I was I wanted to, that was like a quiet nod to you, right? And I wanted to make sure I did that. But your pieces, man, have been, I mean, just so deep. And I'm going to get into them. But of course, this is music and nostalgia. So I want to go visit a song that we've talked, you and I talked about. But the reason for it is this year alone, since January, public individuals have passed away due to suicide. And it's been really unfortunate because I didn't know that there was actually an issue growing up. I thought it was, an other type of situation. It wasn't something you saw in the Black community at a high level. Because I was not educated to that, and because of the narrative that growing up I heard. Of course, there's a double-edged narrative for me growing up in Nigeria and then coming here to the States as well. So the narrative is that I have broken lines when it comes to those conversations. But I got to learn about the issue and the crisis, should I say, of suicide in the Black community over the years. And what I'm most proud of is that there are open conversations about this, because if you can't address it, you can't address it. And we talked about, let's go to the song that, of course, we can't play it because of, rights. But we're talking about, you mentioned a song, like in 5 seconds of us talking about you hopping on the show, you're like, man, I could hit that Biggie Suicidal Thoughts. And I was like, I'd heard the song, but I never equated the message. And for the era the music came out, that was far outside of the norm, right? And so let's go there. Like, let's talk. Why is that song something that connects to you on several levels?
Well, to give some of my history. When I was, like many people, right? And we always say, like a lot of Black kids. No, like many kids in general. I've worked with every culture, every community.
Yeah.
All kids, all groups, all cultures have challenges with parenting.
Yeah.
And the more stress you add to any group or culture, that just adds more pressure. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a lot of kids out here that either don't have their father physically or don't have their father emotionally. So even if they're in the same house, they don't have their dad. I gotta say this because I was separated from my father at 1, and I don't want people to take that and use that as to confirm their bias against Black fathers. Black fathers are dope, and a lot of people like to quote a study that talked about, Black fathers aren't in the home. That study was about marriage. So when it comes to marriage, we definitely, marry a lot less and things of that nature. But when the CDC actually did a study several years later on being active in parenting, and Black fathers were number 1, more active than the other groups when it came to parenting.
Right.
They did white and Hispanic. And they defined that by bath time, by reading, and by eating meals together. And the Black fathers on 2 of those was ranked the higher than even the other fathers in that particular study.
That's major.
And, ranked 2nd when it came to reading to their children. So we are actually the most active fathers, according to.
And I see that. Yeah.
So I just want to be really clear about that, right?
Absolutely.
I got to be careful about the different tropes out there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I was separated from my dad at 1. My mother died by suicide when I was 2. I'm from the west side of Chicago, born in 78. So I was coming of age in the late 80s, early 90s in Chicago.
Yeah.
That's the height of the crack epidemic in all major cities. And as a Black man growing up on the block in the middle of the hood, in Ghost Town, right outside of Holy City, and all these different, Chicago's one of the gang capitals of the nation, right? Chicago and LA. and, you know, just growing up in the midst of it, in the heart of it, and, you know, going through those challenges and seeing what's up. As a matter of fact, I believe that Black folks, we don't get recognized as urban veterans.
Mm.
And those
Talk
of us,
about that.
Those of us that's at my age, you know, 43 right now, going on 44, that grew up in the midst of the crack epidemic as Black folk, that era is going to go down in history as one of the most devastating eras for the Black community in the midst of Reaganomics and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? And we never get recognized for it. We never get, like, we should really be honored for just surviving that. And all the people that bled out in the streets and watching elders that we honor, respected, you know, the mother in the church, one day and 3 weeks later, she's cracked out on the block. And this is when we treated drug addiction like, because they saw it as a Black, as a Hispanic, as a poverty thing. You know what I'm saying? It was treated like just criminals. It was just super criminalized, and something's wrong with you, and get your life together. And it was a war on drugs, as opposed to the war on health issues. So now, and once the opioid epidemic began, that really enveloped the white community for different reasons, right? So everything is connected to everything. People always want to have conversations in a bubble, and nothing's in a bubble. Everything connects to everything. If you're not having a synthesized conversation, then you're actually not trying to figure it out or come up with a solution. And so and I know I'm just going off on a tangent right now, but
no, please. I'm learning a lot too, and I know others will be as well.
Okay. When it comes to that opioid epidemic, you know, there's a phenomenal book called Medical Apartheid, and it talks about the medical oppression of Black folks in the healthcare industry and how we were experimenting on. It goes well beyond the Tuskegee experiments. Black women were experimented on so horrifically and horrendously when it came to gynecological different things, and those breakthroughs. So many of the breakthroughs that's keeping the world alive came at the distress of Black people being used. And one of those ideas and one of those things that still exists is the idea that Black people don't feel pain like white people feel. Like we have a natural higher tolerance for pain, which is bullshit. And it causes us to hurt longer. But in this situation with the opioids, because they were believing that we didn't feel pain at that level, they didn't prescribe us opioids at the level they prescribed the white folk. So white folk got major opioid you know, prescriptions and things of that nature that caused that community to balloon with addiction to the opioids. And when those prescriptions aren't available, then you go to the illegal prescription. So now you got a heroin you know, burst, right? Illegal opioid use just really ballooned, and it ate that community up. And as it ate that community and continues to be a struggle, the perspective on drug addiction shifted to, these aren't criminals because it's my kid, it's my daughter, it's my wife. They aren't criminals. This is a health issue. This is a health issue. So they're being dealt with differently, and they're being dealt with way more compassion than we were dealt with during the crack epidemic. And this is why there's the blind spot of America is racism. And it's not even about let's make up for the wrongs. It ain't even got to be that deep. Oh, let's make sure Black people feel better. It ain't even got to be that deep. As a country, we're not living to our potential because of this dumb shit. You know what I mean? Because anything that happens in a Black community eventually matriculates, right, to the white community. Absolutely. Nothing happens in a bubble. You know what I mean? I don't care how you feel about Black people. Somebody in your family love us. Our culture is your culture because our culture is dope. We are the season to your meal. So
Yeah.
you can only go so long without us, without absorbing us. It's like a racist that's complaining about immigration, but they going out to get tacos. You know what I mean? They want the culture.
wait. Say that one again, because it sounds so simple and comedic, but there's so much depth to that. I want it to be heard again.
It's so ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's like the racists that got a problem, immigration and stay where you are, all this kind of stuff. But they're doing it as they go out to get tacos and burritos. They hate them. We have a tendency of hating the people, but loving the culture. We love what you do, but we want what you do, but we don't want you. Right?
So it's taking the comfortable piece of a people and translating it into the only aspect that's worthy, and then erasing the value and everything else. That's basically what you just said there.
I don't want any of the extra. It is the cultural equivalent of the Stepford wife, right? That's the gender, you know what I mean? That's the gender equivalent of what I'm saying. I just want my wife to be pretty, do what I say, and shut up. I want all the benefits, but I don't want the complexities of another human being. I don't want to recognize a level of equality where I could be complicated and have emotions and have demands for my life. You can't too. There's only room for one person to be that important in this relation, right? The Stepford wife. It's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. And the reason I brought that up to kind of, take it back is that if America would have dealt with the Black community with more compassion in the crack epidemic, with the Latino community with more compassion in the crack epidemic, if they decided to look at us and say, we're not criminals, it's sick, and in using these drugs, maybe I'm self-medicating for depression, for unresolved mental health, undiagnosed for everything from schizophrenia. Every Black person in America, if I had to have a common word, it'd be trauma. Ooh. Our existence here is trauma. You know what I mean? We're the
would you say
of the children of the children of the children of people who were kidnapped.
Yeah. So would you say that song, Suicidal Thoughts, is, as it feels like it's a result of that trauma? Do you think that it was him trying to narrate?
I think all unhealthy urban challenges are a result of trauma. You know what I mean? Are a result of a ridiculous trauma, right?
Yeah.
So if they would have addressed the crack epidemic, there would already been a system in place to address drug health challenges. So by the time the opioid challenge hit the white community, the system was already been there to help save lives.
Yeah.
To help save lives. But they had to build the system out. So many of our white brothers and sisters who were struggling died or were arrested or these different things, all because it wasn't important until it got there.
Gotcha.
It could have saved white lives by loving Black lives.
Ooh, that's a poignant statement right there.
What I'm saying? So I bring that up to accent the intensity of this time period, late 80s, early 90s. And during this time, the hood was real. It was going down. It was very violent, very aggressive, and gangster. You know what I mean? We had, thank God, a diversity in hip hop, right? Yeah. So if I wanted to be on some just thoughtful, right, revolutionary stuff, I had my Public Enemy and X-Clan and different groups that was on that. If I wanted to be on the Jungle Brothers, right? If I wanted to be just on some nerd backpack stuff,
yeah,
I had my backpack rap. You know what I mean? We had the dance and just fun rap. We never mentioned them. I don't know why they don't get nearly as much props, because they were so important. The Kid and Plays, the Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Heavy D, and so many of these rappers that brought just joy to the table.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
joy. Give me an excuse. Let me just laugh, man. Let me just have a good time. Let me be happy, right? So music that we could play, the church kids could play. Those that was raised in the church, because we couldn't play NWA.
Ray
would have knocked my head off. You know what I'm saying? I had to play it on volume 3. You know, when to the radio, right?
You didn't have the Beats headphones back then, so nah.
No Beats. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That hurt your ear, plastic, you know. But that song came out, and you know, we was going hard with gangs. I was really into the hardcore stuff. Ghetto Boys was like my favorite group, Scarface, and all this other stuff. So you got this hardcore brother, Notorious Big, B.I.G., Christopher Wallace killing it. That whole album just stupid, stupid, from Warning to all of this stuff right on this album. And then he got vulnerable. And that's why that song was so important, because nobody in the Black community was talking about the depression of that lifestyle.
Yeah.
The how it breaks you. Scarface, I would argue, would be the first one that really talked about that emotional piece of that lifestyle. But when Biggie did it, it was very focused, very in. Now, I've been dealing with suicidal challenges my whole life. I always knew my mother died by suicide. So, you know, when you have a parent that dies by suicide, it triples your chances of dying by suicide. That's if it happened before you were 18. After 18, it doesn't seem to have an effect. It doesn't increase those chances. But under 18 triples the chances that you would die by suicide as well. So that's just always been a struggle for me, from self-harm and things like that. And that often shows itself in us putting ourselves in dangerous situations, because traditional suicide was fairly taboo. But my mother was a amazing, strong, beautiful ex-model. She modeled, she was an actress, she had a black belt, she was a Buddhist. You know, I was born to two Buddhists, two Black Panther Buddhists. You know what I mean? So there was Black Panthers, they were Buddhists, they, you know, really outside successful, you know, and it was 1980. And she died by suicide, but she died even by suicide in a way that was against all stereotypes. You know what I mean? Being Black, being a woman, it's 1980, and by gun in a public place. Like, it was a very intense. It wasn't like somebody found her at home. She sat at the foot of a statue in front of the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago. And on Sunday, August 10th, 1980, at about 9 a.m. In a park, she you know, shot herself in the head. You know what I mean? Which is not how the traditional way women often die by suicide. You know what I mean? It's usually not that aggressive. It tends to be considered a more masculine way. So all of this, I'm dealing with all of this, and then finally, and at the time I'm 14, 15, so I got at least a foot into the street. You know what I mean? Was never as ill as so many of my people, but in Chicago, you gang affiliated whether you a gang member or not. You know what I mean? So everybody got a little foot in the street. So I had a foot in the street, and Biggie was just represented. When he talked about it, man, it gave me permission to feel it. It made it okay. It did it. Up to that point, I questioned my own masculinity and toughness for feeling these ways, because that's a punk, that's a chump, you know, So when he said it, it made feeling that way okay. Feeling that way did not emasculate me. Feeling that way did, it was a confirmation. And one of the biggest mistakes is people think that the more you talk about it, if you talk about it and make people want to do it. No, let me get it out through language, or I'm gonna get it out through action. So pick one. Yeah. Either gonna have an uncomfortable conversation, or you're gonna have an uncomfortable funeral to go to. So how is that aspect of it, having the conversation around the subject of suicide? How did that, because
of course, you're a wordsmith. So I have a feeling that your poetry played a part in how you handled suicidal thoughts and feelings. But how before you got into poetry? Because I know you didn't start from like diaper age, right?
Right.
But like, how did you create, or how, what environments, like what people, I know you talk about your sister all the time, but like, what are some elements of how you were able to support yourself and get support so that along the way, while you were still trying to figure out what was going on,
Right.
while you were uncertain about what stages were there, what you were going through,
Yeah.
what were those guidance steps? Because you're here with us, and brother, like, always appreciate the wealth of knowledge that you share and the sincerity in which you share with. So I want those out there to be able to hear this and think, oh, these are some significant things to think about, whether it's hearing it or letting it out.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. No, thank you for that. So what are some things that helped me carry through before I started to write poetry? I started writing poetry at 14.
Yeah.
I grew up with my granny and my aunt. My primary caregiver, and then my granny as that supplement. So I was never a latchkey kid. Granny was always home,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I was heavy into the church. My auntie was the Sunday school teacher, so I was in church every day. We lived literally across the street from Greater Rock Missionary Baptist Church, 700 South Independence Boulevard, for East James Pastor, right? You know what I mean? You got to learn this stuff. So I'm literally across the street. So thank God for the friendships, the relationships, and growing up in the hood with so many other kids. That's the thing about being in a dense community. We always talk about the super negatives of the hood, and there are super negatives intentionally, right? That was put there to keep us in a mental space. So that very few can get out of that place, and it's just very reinforcing. Even if you look at different behavioral models and environment and things of that nature, it is very systemic, right? It is very purposeful. But anyway, the good stuff on the block is always playing with other kids, right?
Yeah.
Always having kind of this availability, and the church was always taking us on trips. So there was joy in my childhood as well.
Right.
But at night, when the lights go out, eyes closed, it was the demons. You know what I mean? So young, I didn't know how to cope. Suicide and self-harm had been an option since I was about 5. So this is how early. So I've been having existential crises, starting at 4, 5 years old, right? Because they never lied to me, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And my big sister and my big brother, my brother was 10 years older than me. My brother Earl, my sister Rakia was about 11 or so years older than me. So I was the baby by far. So now I'm the baby. And when you're that far as the baby, you almost feel like an only child sometimes. And I don't have mom or dad, but I got sister and brother. So I pretty much got some teenage parents that's trying to help guide me through a household that loved me. My aunt loved me. Like we got families back, but not emotional, right? Not affectionate, not with the I loved yous and hugs and all of that.
Right.
My sister made up for a lot of that. But that was tough. She was also figuring life out, had a child early. My beautiful niece had her as a teenager and handled her business with that, but she had to go figure her life out. So
right.
By the time I was there. So as an overly emotional kid, I was, just always being told I cry too much, cry baby. And it's the hood, and they're scared that I'm not going to be able to survive. So now it's almost like Fight Club. I'm fighting every day. They pit me against other cats in the neighborhood at some point. You know what I mean? Like it was almost like a battleground. It was pretty rough. But I digress. Music was something to dive into, but it always wasn't healthy. I was trying to figure it out, man. And my anger, I was fighting all the time. My anger was intense, wanting to hurting myself, whether it be cutting or playing with fire, or playing with razors, or just didn't feel like I deserved to be around, man. Big old glasses, ears out to here, you know what I mean? Being clowned a lot, and just the regular stuff you go through growing up. When you have these issues, it magnifies stuff that's just normal.
Right. And I was
don't like me, I'm not attractive, I'm not, and then take that and throw 100 on it, right? It makes it even worse. So I'm not really sure, I got, grace of God, my thoughtful mind, I would randomly order different kind of academic stuff. I read a lot. Everybody in my house were readers. No matter
right.
how,
Oh,
because
that's
all my
dope.
uncles lived with us too. It was like 4 or 5 uncles at any given. It was Granny's house. So you never knew who was going to be sleeping there that night. Maybe
Yeah.
my cousin to be there, and now we got to just sleep in the same bed and go head to toe. You know what I mean? My uncles always stayed there. My uncle Sonny was the one that introduced me to poetry. He used to come home, and he used to come home lit, drunk and whatever else he was doing, and recite Edgar Allan Poe and Dolomite to me at night. And I'm 8 years old, and he reciting Rudy Ray Moore and The Raven to me. And that's how I got into poetry in the first place. But
it's funny you say that. As you were saying that, I always wondered how Edgar Allan Poe, because I remember there was a piece you wrote, and then you said it was fashioned with the inspiration of Edgar Allan Poe. And I remember you saying that. I was like, what, because I heard Edgar Allan Poe, I read some of his stuff, and I was never like, ooh, this inspired a thought. Yeah. So, that's great to learn that that's how the introduction was.
Yep. My Uncle Sonny, man, my mother was the eldest. My family from Mississippi. And
okay.
When my granny had two, just my mom and my Uncle Sonny, her parents, her dad got into it. He was sharecropping, and he got into it with a local white man in Mississippi. The white man said he was going to come back and kill his family. Wow. So my great grandfather just shot him right then. You don't get to leave and come back, right? That was one of the rules I learned. You don't get to leave and come back. So he shot him right then, but he also knew we got to go. And they hopped in a pickup truck, and that's how we moved to Chicago. Wow. With my mom and my Uncle Sonny is very small children. That's how we got to the West Side. And so my Uncle Sonny was the next oldest, and maybe he felt the need, since mom wasn't there, I don't know, but he loved Edgar Allan Poe. He loved Edgar Allan Poe and Rudy Ray Moore. He said he used to pay the winos on the corner a quarter for them to tell him one of the, Hurricane Annie and the Pooh Shooting Monkey and Signifying Monkey and all these different Rudy Ray Moore joints. But he would go through The Raven and Annabelle Lee, those specifically, The Raven and Annabelle Lee, and just the way he spit it, he has so much passion, bro. Like he knew him by memory. Now he's drunk, he's high, he's gone. He's coming home leaning. And hey, tell me that poem. Oh boy, let me tell you. And he go into it, man. And once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many and quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, as I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. 'Tis some visitor, I muttered, rapping at my chamber door. Only this and nothing more. And the rhyme scheme of the rhyme and the rhyme, and then another rhyme, and then a rhyme and a rhyme, and another rhyme that rhyme with that rhyme. Like just the breakdown, it was so, you know what I mean? Just so magical. And he would stop like, did you hear that? Did you hear how it rhymed? He made me analyze it from a critical perspective and fall in love early on. And it's the birth of hip hop. So this is going on. My brother got LL Cool J and the Beastie Boys on vinyl in the other room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm growing up loving rhyme scheme. You know what I'm saying? I distinctly remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought his ghost upon the floor. So eagerly I wished tomorrow, so vainly I sought to borrow from my books a cease of sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless hid forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, 'tis some visitor entreating entrance in my chamber door. Some late night visitor entreating entrance in my chamber door. Only this and nothing more, right? It goes from classic to hip hop to rock. I'm a fan, and it is what it is. And
I
Raven is brilliant.
I'm loving it. This is super dope, like super dope. So you know what? I gotta talk about some of your stuff now because you've opened the door to poetry, and man, my first time meeting you, right? I might have walked past you. So okay, before I go into that, we're business partners. We've been, we've been in the same business. I know for me since 2004. You've been a couple of years prior to that. I don't remember what year. 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got involved in our company, and we can say it, Legal Shield, right? When I got involved, I was still in college, and I'd never been a part of something like this. And I remember everybody saying, "You got to go to our event. You got to go to the conference." And I was thinking, I don't know. It's not really that big a deal. I'll go to the next one. But then they said, "Hey, it's in New Orleans." And I was thinking, one of my high school friend goes to school out there, and I know he'll be there through the summer. So I could go kick it with him for a meal or something.
Right.
And then we get to the event, and I hear, "You got to go to the open mic," because it wasn't the Penthouse poetry set at the time. It was just, yeah. And so I was like, okay, cool, sure. Like, there's a party and I love to dance, or there's open mic. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pop through and see what they're doing at that open mic. And before the event happened, you were on stage with your boys. And this is when I think Mr. Humes was on stage with you guys.
Yeah, we just watched that video.
Oh man, 7 times 7. And immediately I was like, yo, what's going on here? Because it was magical. All of you guys were in these monk-like hooded hoods. And I mean, it was perfect. The delivery, the tempo, the vibe, everything was so so authentic. It felt real. It didn't feel like a put on. You know, sometimes they just like bring some kind of entertainment to events to kind of liven it up. This felt so core to who we were. And that's when I knew that, okay, I knew I loved TNV, but I am TNV, like in the veins.
Right.
Like,
that's right.
Then that's where I met you, right? And I didn't know how long I'd be following you. I didn't know who you'd be. And I remember seeing you after the event, after you'd gotten off stage, and I was like, wow, I'm bowing, and you were just like, thanks back, man. And that was it. And I was like, what? He's not even giving me, like, I need more. And I realized that, okay, I'm just going to have to stick around to get to know what this culture was about, right? To learn more about this team. And you were like, you did a team live, 2 lives for the team, where we could tell you were like the historian, because you dug into the journey of Team New Vision, how we existed in the birthing and all of that, and the present, and also the future in your talk. But I say all of that because I want to get to your poetry penthouse, because at that is when I really got to sit at your feet and study, right? And you weren't even holding class, but I was in the room to absorb what you were shelling out. And there's several poems that you've done. There's All or Nothing. There's the one you did on stage, and I'm losing the title right now, but it's like Still Will Don't. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Still Will Don't Break.
Undefeated. Yeah.
Undefeated. And I mean, so every piece that I'd ever heard from you just spoke to different parts of me. And like music, poetry really lives on, because no matter the generation, if it's a well-written piece, it speaks to different stages or different phases of our lives, because it matters. And so for your work, like I have so many, I could be like, oh, please, I want to hear this one. One of my favorites, aside from the Superman one, is the arithmetic. Mathematically speaking, right? Yeah. But you have works that really touch on different phases of hip hop. How did you evolve into that person that was writing this type of work? Like, because you could have been writing corny stuff just to get through the day, but like the depth.
And I'm sure I have. I'm sure I got some corny stuff to do.
Hey, you just haven't given it to us. It's all good.
I'm sure I got some corny stuff that you got. You know, you do it all, man. Well, as you heard, right? I was always struggling young, trying to figure it out, trying to figure myself out. And poetry became that that outlet. And when I turned 14 in 8th grade, that's why I'm celebrating 30 years as a poet next month. 30 years, yeah. So at that point, that's when I started writing, and it was awesome. And honestly, it started off with writing a love poem for Valentine, and it went well. You know, the girls in the 8th grade class enjoyed it. I was like, I guess I found my thing, you know? So, I played sports, but more street sports, and I wasn't the best, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't picked last, but I wasn't picked first, you know, usually, right? And so I did okay in these different areas, but poetry was something that was very unique to me. So that is something I'll put out there. If you have a young person or anybody that's struggling to find self-worth, help them find a thing for them, a thing that feels special to them, and nurture it no matter what it is, whether they can make $1 million at it or whatever, that would help anchor them to this world, right? So this anchored me to the world. And so I was just writing love poems at first, but the more you write, the more your true feelings come out. And eventually I started writing just that real stuff, what I was seeing. And, you know, I'm trying to figure it out. I remember when I was a kid, I saw that someone defined a philosopher as a seeker of truth. And I said, that's what I want to be, a philosopher. I want to be a seeker of truth. I just want to get to because I've been asking these questions for so long that, all right, let's deal with the truth and the reality so we can get to what's real in this world, you know? And so I started to talk that realness. And at the time it was very, very dark, you know what I mean? But I think there's beauty in darkness, unlike some folk. You know what I'm saying? So the darkness but I'm born from Edgar Allan Poe. You know what I mean? I'm a combination of Edgar Allan Poe and Langston Hughes and Gwendolyn Brooks, you know, and the different amazing Black artists. So now that's combined with the struggles of the block. And, you know, people started calling me and asking me to recite the poem they heard at school to their cousin or to their friend. And that's, you know, I'm saying them over. And this is back in the day with the home phone, with the long cord. And we just got three-way. Your three-way just came out. Call waiting and three-way, you have to pay extra.
Yeah.
You clicking over, and then, you know, I'm telling a poem to strangers. And some of those poems, I was saying them so much. Next thing I know, I kind of had them kind of memorized.
Yeah.
Right? And then I'm walking down the street and in the neighborhood. And then you know how it is in the Black community. They be like, hold on. My baby could dance. Hold on, give him something. Go ahead, dance.
Yeah.
My baby could sing. Go ahead. Like, you know, we love to encourage the art in our young people. And we put each other on the stage in front. You can't be scared. Go ahead. Like, they force you out of that stage fright kind of thing. True. So that's what would happen with the poetry. And next thing you know, I'm walking down the street and the dope dealers and the hardcore gangbangers, you know what I mean? Everybody sold a little something, everybody gangbanged a little bit, but you had the hardcore cats that was living it. And they were, hey, Harold, come on, man. Hey, give me some of that knowledge, fam. Like, man, yo, shut up, man. Boom. Like, they nurtured it, man. So I grew up spitting for the block, for the killers, for the dope dealers, for the cats in the struggle, for the cats trying to figure it out in the alleys and on the corners. That's where I was raised with the poetry. And you can't come to them with no garbage. You got to be 100. And what they kept saying, and it wasn't, when I got out, the fellas teased me about the love joints at first, you know what I mean? They teased me, but they was like, yo, man, that was cold. Can I use that though? Like, yeah, man, go ahead. Hey, man, I'm gonna call you with this girl. I'm gonna tell her that this is how I feel. I need you to spit it for me though. Okay, whatever. Like, I got you, right? So I was that dude. And but when I flipped over into that dark stuff about not wanting to be alive, not wanting to be here, about not wanting to wake up, like not knowing why I'm in this situation, how the hood is terrifying, but I got to step up. I can't even allow myself to be terrified because I got to step up and out of it, and I got to be able to survive it. And now I got to cut off different parts of myself emotionally. Remember, I was the crybaby, so I got to cut this stuff off. I got to become somebody I'm not, just because how else am I going to push through this? And at the same time, dealing with the pressure of the whole country calling me, you know, whatever it is, right? So as I'm writing about this, the brothers was loving it. And next thing I know, man, I got brothers like, you know, hey, come sit on the porch with me and spit. And and what I kept hearing is, that's exactly how I feel. Bro, you said what I'm thinking every night, bro. You said that. And that's when I realized I had a responsibility, and I had maybe a gift, maybe a talent, because I just didn't hear about a lot of people having it. It's hard to call something a gift and a talent when it's something you love to do and you may even do naturally. And
right.
You're like, well, I'm not working that hard. It can't be that, but that's probably what makes it a gift, you know? And I had a gift for taking emotions and ideas and being transparent about it, because so many people are scared to admit when they're hurt, they're in pain, they're things, and being able to communicate it in such a way where I can speak for those who can't speak for themselves.
Right. You know, that statement right there, because one of the advantages I've had is I've had conversations with you over the years. And one thing that I've heard from you on stage and one-on-one is that one of your characteristics is that you're an empath. So you get to walk in a room and automatically you're downloading what the feel of the room is. That's I heard it somewhere that our strengths and our weaknesses lie side by side, right? Like, because one edge of the sword is cutting this way, but it's also cutting in the other direction. What are some of the challenges that has brought to you, being that you walk in a room and now this responsibility of making sure you're fostering the words that will uplift or encourage or enlighten? Because sometimes you don't want to always brush the reality aside. You want to address it, face it head on. So how was that something that you had to overcome or deal with or even learn from?
Damn, still figuring it out, right? You have imposter syndrome that goes in, like, who am I to recognize, why is my story important? Who do I think I am?
Yeah.
Anybody would even want to hear my story. I'm writing my memoir right now. Excuse me.
Let's be fire.
And thank you. And it's the whole journey. And writing a book in that sense, not something that's just a lot of poems, right? A lot of short writings, but one long project. Throughout it, man, why me? Don't nobody want to hear my story. Who do I think I am? This is arrogant. This is really arrogant to think that somebody wants to read about my life. So getting hit with those different pieces when it comes to holding my own emotions is a struggle sometimes, let alone other people's. And that responsibility, what if I'm not doing it well? What if I'm not doing it right? What if I disappoint by being honest? Because, people, they put you in a box, even if they think it's a shiny one, it's still a box. Even if the box is made out of gold, it's still a box.
Yeah.
Saying, I don't want to sell at all. I don't want to be in prison at all, even if it's a palace. I want to be able to leave, And people would say, oh man, you spit a poem, let's say about, it's Black History Month, about the movement and things of that nature, which is absolutely you. But then you spit a piece that's about your personal struggle and mental health. The same people may not be interested in hearing that one. No, tell me this one. Oh, well, love poem. I don't, man, that's not real. Love ain't real. Love? Why are we fighting the battle, the revolution, the war, if we don't have love waiting for us on the other side?
Yeah.
What's the point? The point? We lose that, right? So, or something fun, right? So all those pressures come up. And when it comes to being an empath, and feeling other people, I mean, that may very well just be a result of hyper awareness of me being able to read, the different eye shifts and the different micro gestures, and hearing the voices and watching the body language. And I don't even realize my unconscious is processing all this information and causing me, instead of giving me the data, the raw data,
Yeah.
giving me the printout, which is they need support or they need help, and I don't even know the data that caused it because it's in the unconscious. So all I could call it is being an empath, being empathic, right? But sometimes, especially if you challenged with a mental health diagnosis, like, I've been diagnosed with a few, it's overstimulation.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. And everybody that's good in front of a crowd isn't an extrovert. And so you have a lot of introverts that's good in front of the crowd, or good with, just because I'm good with people don't mean it doesn't drain me. So after every open mic, you see me laid on the stage, like I'm done, I'm gone. I've spent it all, and the next day I don't want to do anything but recover. Like I literally have to recover from that much reading and that much attention and that much serving. Like you said, just taking care of the people and serving and things. I'm an old school, I'm protocol,
The old head.
Take care of the old head, and you do these different things different ways. I blame my brother. I was raised by men, like black men in a Chicago gang culture that has etiquette,
right,
and we have ranks, and we got behaviors, and you behave accordingly, right? So that is one of those. That is definitely one of the challenges. And sometimes I got to pull away. Sometimes I got to disappear unapologetically. And the older I get, the more I'm okay with it. Or else I take on so much, I go home and be depressed behind it, right? I go home and feel some kind of way behind it. But when we met and I was hosting, I had already been hosting for years.
Absolutely. Which, just from how you've described and expressed just everything that you have, it takes me to the quiet nod, right? Of Unplugged. Was that the title of that poem? The Superman poem.
The Superman? No sick days.
Sick days. Yes, please forgive me for not remembering the titles correctly. I feel like
you're right. I forget my titles sometimes.
Well, because something that you've just mentioned here really touches on the fact that we don't allow ourselves to unplug the moment, like we're crossing the barrier of our mental wellness. That piece, and I know this is just a conversation between friends, so the outsiders that are listening in, I hope there's a way for them to find your content, because I really want them to hear. But it's such a good piece that I want people to absorb it like they listen to music, so they know all your pieces that I've heard are just dynamic, whether on the CD or on stage, they just really speak to different phases of our lives,
Thank you. I appreciate that. And and that's really the purpose. As I've grown in my art and been blessed to perform with so many people in so many places, from South Africa and Gandhi's granddaughter to, sharing a stage with Dick Gregory, and Gladys Knight, and going on tour with the Goo Goo Dolls and Sugar Ray, like the first poets to go on a national platinum rock tour, like these Black poets talking revolution. With the Goo Goo Dolls, right? To that audience, traveling from Cali to New York to Woodstock '99, the Winter Olympics, Sundance Film Festival with Mums, the poet who passed away, and the Last Poets and the Watch Poets, and the Watch Prophets and Gil Scott-Heron, and being able to share the stage with the people my father honored as poets and writers, to get that generation's respect and really, really pay homage to the griots, I mean? As all this comes from Africa, from the motherland. This is written in our bones.
Yeah.
If we're willing to learn the language, learn the emotional language,
Yeah.
of our people, right? So being able to do that, I feel a responsibility, and I feel that my responsibility is solely to be honest. That's it. Any more responsibility, you put too much on me, and it's not mine. I just need to be honest. And some people will flow with me through one phase of my journey and not really dig me on another phase. Just like with a musician, them first, I'm an early Tupac fan.
Yeah.
I'm way more of a fan of his pre-death row than post-death row. That's just me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And everyone has that, even with the artists, in their journey, what part of that journey connect with you. And sometimes you get an artist, you connect with them through their whole journey. So I'm okay if I'm not connected with through my entire career, long as I'm being honest.
Right.
Long
Absolutely.
as I'm being honest and true to me.
Yeah.
Others will, absolutely respect that. But I bleed on stage, and I bleed on stage so people can heal in the crowd.
Yeah.
I cut my wounds open every time. Every time I read a poem I wrote, I go back to that moment. I know where I was when I wrote it. I feel the tears in my eyes when I did it. So I'm constantly reliving certain trauma so that others can hear it and not feel alone. That shit is heavy, bro.
Hold up. Wait a minute. You said you relive these moments so others can what?
Others can heal.
Man.
They're not alone. And I do it, and it's self-inflicted pain and agony a lot of the times. Sometimes I'm reciting and I still find tears in my eyes for something I wrote 20 years ago. And I'm doing it because I wish somebody did it for me.
Oh.
And I remember somebody coming to our school and talking, and I connected to it. That one person at one time, the most dangerous emotion is loneliness.
Tell me about that. Why is that?
To me, and that's a personal opinion, because when you feel like you're alone, then there is no outlet. We're a social people. We have to feel connected. So when you feel alone, and even worse, when you're surrounded by people but feel alone, when you're a room crowded and you still feel alone, you still feel misunderstood. And it's easy to feel like something's wrong with you if you think you're the only one. And if something's wrong with you, then maybe you don't fit here. And if you don't fit here, maybe this world wasn't made for you. And if this world wasn't made for you, it's not going to get any better. And if it's not going to get any better, why am I wasting this space?
Wow. So
I believe it starts that whole journey. So I'm willing to do it over and over and over again. And just when you want to stop doing it, somebody come and tell you, hey, I almost gave up. You spoke for me. You know what? I've had people come and say they was going to go home that day. They had already wrote the letter. Like, it was a wrap, and they didn't do it. Like, and these are, this is when I went to speak out of high school and just told my story. It was just honest. You don't always have to have solutions. Sometimes you just have to be relatable.
Yeah.
The relatability is the solution in and of itself. So that is,
Wow. This is, I'm loving this opportunity to share with you, because I've heard so many levels and parts of your story here. But in relation to the podcast, I love how you really just pointed out here that every time you go back and do a piece, it takes you right back to where you were when you wrote it. And of course, the title of the podcast is Music and Nostalgia. So that really just shows in framing that whatever our music is or the poetry is, it really does. It takes us back to a moment. And yes, while you go back and revisit that cut, as you just related it to, you're not bleeding out in the same rate, in the same way as you did when you first wrote it. If you're working through the process, is basically what you're doing. Like you're cutting yourself so others can heal.
Yeah.
And in the process, you're also finding ways to heal better, I would imagine, correct?
Yeah, there's definitely that. Being able to get it out is just really, really helpful, but that's always a dice roll, because what if the crowd just look at you like, then that makes it worse. Depending on where you are emotionally. And I have had those moments where my poem about my mom's suicide and things like that, called My Mother's Son, and just how I also, like, I got that from mom, and this is how I'm feeling. I don't want to be here. I've recited that, man, to crowds, and they just looked at me like something's wrong with me. You know what I mean? And that's tough, and you got to kind of work through that, especially when you're that's why people avoid being vulnerable.
True.
The more vulnerable you are, the higher your chances of being hurt.
Yeah.
You're vulnerable. Your shields are down. So of course, even a rock is gonna hit you with your shields down. You're gonna feel it. And so that's why people totally avoid it. Totally avoid being vulnerable. I can't avoid not being it.
Yeah. Why not?
Because it's honest. It's honest, man. I lied for a long time about who I really was and tried to be somebody else.
Yeah.
Until I realized I'd rather fail at life as me than succeed as someone else.
Say that again.
I would rather fail at life in the traditional sense than succeed. I'd rather fail at life as me than succeed as someone else. I can't keep up with it. I can't keep up with being somebody else. I can't keep up with all the lies. I can't keep up with the fake. And people misuse the fake.
Right.
So if you're trying to be positive when you're actually feeling down, it'd be like you're being fake. No, I'm trying to engage the emotions that I want to feel. So I'm controlling myself. I'm not, I'm multidimensional. So I get to be many, many different things. What I don't get to do is lie about these categories.
Yeah.
Right? So when I'm on stage, I'm honest. If I'm gonna take up these people's time, I should be honest when I do it.
Yeah.
And I allow myself to go back and relive the agony, because that's respect to the audience. But going back to relive the pain and do it fully, that respects the poem. It would be disrespectful to the poem if I half did it. So if I can't do it in full, then I'm not gonna do that particular piece, because it'd be dishonorable to the craft and to the art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a lot, and nobody got it totally figured out. We figure it out to the day, and no telling what tomorrow's gonna bring. You know what I mean? And then you just work it step by step, and you do get more skills and more ability. And it wasn't just poetry, right? I've done therapy. I've done counseling. Like, I'm talking about for decades.
Right.
Off and on. You know what I'm saying? Trying to figure it out, having the depth of conversation with people who are smarter than me. I'm surrounded by people who love me dearly. Like, I'm surrounded by so much love, but that wasn't an accident. Build good relationships, do right by folk, be honorable, be 100. Everybody know, like, if we got a challenge, let's address it, whatever. And then people that don't fit my criteria for my circle, and they don't get to be in my circle. And so being surrounded by love, but also being surrounded by people who are more advanced than me in different areas, to each other, but it's just people that's just smart as hell. I get to be around, or they have more discipline, or they may not have the emotional fluctuations that I have, You know what I mean? Because of
Yeah.
life experiences, because of ADHD, because of bipolar 2, because of manic depressive, majorly depressive disorder, right? Because of these
Mhm.
things, I know I can go, and I have to be able to lean on others. Like, you got to know when you tripping. You got to
True.
know when you're tripping. You know, and when I think I may be tripping, I am never far from a brother or sister that could be like, am I bugging? Yo,
But that's necessary. The circle.
that's that self-regulation. That's emotional intelligence, right?
Yeah.
I went in to get my, I got my degree in communication. I went to get my master's in coaching psychology. I'm working on my doctorate in performance psychology. I want to understand not just me, but other people. And I put so much work in that I do fairly well understanding these things. And going to school is one way that I was like, man, let me continue to polish this off. But this shit don't happen on accident, bro. Like, you really got to be hungry to know, understand, and want the information.
Yeah.
So poetry and expressing is one part of it
Mhm.
that helps. It makes me feel good. And honestly, the best feelings are in little small coffee houses with 20 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
best, as
So
opposed to 12,000 when I performed at the MGM.
listen, I agree. Like, that small, intimate setting. Now, let's also recognize that you've had some bangers of events. Like, let's talk about home base, right?
Yes.
Like, home base. I I I used to dream of coming out to Phoenix just to be at home base at one of your events, because if the small modicum of experience I got when we were wherever, Vegas or Dallas or Oklahoma or wherever TNV went, I wanted that at the large scale.
Yeah.
So you've been able to foster that culture that you've talked about throughout, like the honor and the respect and cutting, so that others can experience that pain that and how to heal through that. So I've seen that at your events that we've done, which small is relative, right? Because it's still like 300 people in some of these open mic poetry penthouse events that you and Mel Rob, let's also throw that name out there, right? So you guys mastered the art of really bringing people together and then getting so many levels, so many styles and personalities, and honoring, right, all of the different personalities that came up on stage. I finally did a piece after years of attending your stuff, right? I finally did a piece at our last event, and my heart was just open. It was something that I was a little hesitant about sharing, because it's something I wrote last year around the idea of the police brutality that we were seeing in the media and everything like that. So I was shy of bringing it out, because I was like, what if I'm narrow in my vision? But when I went up on stage, your love on really just encouraging me through that, and everybody that was in the audience, it was just powerful, right? So how is that something that you've done to encourage those that are also learning the craft and trying to cultivate themselves? Because one of the things, you brought a young man on stage that has been working with you, learning and crafting his work for years, right? And he came on there and killed it. Felt like he had been a poet for like 3 decades with how strong he came with it. How have you cultivated that? Because we keep coming back. We keep coming back.
Take care of the people.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
Everything is energy. People think the focus should be on the talent, and it's not. The focus is the energy of the room. You can go and see the same, your favorite artist musically in different cities and see different experiences.
Yeah.
In some cities, the crowd is into it, it's live, the energy's crazy, and it's the best thing in the world. In some cities, the crowd is dry as hell.
Yeah.
It's a different experience. You know what I mean? The host didn't do their job. And as a host, my job is to tap into the emotions and create a loving, welcoming environment. home base, the reason I named it home base poetry, the poet's poetry set, is
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted real, authentic, passionate poets to feel like, man, this is it. This is where I feel at home. This is powerful. But home base, a lot of people reference it to baseball. It's not quite where that's from. It's when we were young and we were running around like mad men and women and girls and boys playing it and freeze tag and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Running when you're that young, you remember running for your life. I remember running through the street, damn near getting hit by cars, trying not to get tagged.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to get frozen. And
Safe.
you're frantic. You're frantic, anxiety, you like you going crazy. You finna hurt yourself, bump into people walking down the street. And all of this frantic, heart is beating, you're terrified until you get your hand on what?
Home base. Safe.
And when you're at home base, you're safe.
Yeah.
I live in Arizona. Arizona is not known for being welcoming and loving to diverse ideas, at least from a political standpoint, you know?
Right.
So where can we as a Black community with Black art and our craft and people who want to experience our art and our craft and even participate, where can we go and be real and 100? Let's create a safe space for that home base. So the focus has always been about safety,
yeah,
and energy, and making people feel loved. Making people feel loved, making people feel accepted and wanted and valued and important. And so it was always about fairness, and everyone is extremely important. So walking through the crowd, loving on folks, how you doing? You good? Having small businesses set up tables out in the front to support the small business as well. People can bring me flyers for whatever they got going on. I announce, hey, it's another event going on over here, and you know, it's something going on over here, and you know, so trying to create a hub of information, of attitude, of energy. I can tell you, man, it's been multiple people that met their wives, their spouses at home base, proposed at home base, you know, honored it. Like, it's crazy the influence it's had on the Phoenix community.
That's beautiful.
And yeah, it's really been mind-blowing. And to go for 10 years straight, and now we're at 13 years, you know, doing pop-ups here and there, as opposed to a consistent event. But our largest was our last anniversary, over 800. So our largest maybe over 1,000 at a poetry set. At different times we have been the largest in the nation, right? Not consistent, like Georgia do their thing, Atlanta, LA had a big, Hawaii had one that was through the roof, that was crazy, 100 like every time. And a lot of the college groups were killing it nationwide as well. But we did hell as one of the largest consistently, and at times the largest, because you know they go in and out of business and whatnot. So
right.
It's definitely something. And to this day, people say, I just don't go out. I don't go out unless I know you're doing something. They want
That's dope. That's dope.
And my reputation is important, and people being able to trust me, my consistency, and you know, things like that, and being able, and I got, you know, high expectations. You know, I run a tight ship, bro.
Oh, this I know.
Tight ship. You're not finna act crazy up in here. You're not finna mess up the vibe.
Yeah.
You know, Jim Rohn taught us, and I've been applying this to almost every area of my life. Nurture like a mother, protect like a father.
Absolutely.
Nurture and protect. Sometimes that's flip, right? Nurture like a father, because I'm a very nurturing and loving dad.
Yeah.
And protect like a mother, because no one's more dangerous than a mother who think their kids are in danger, right? But nurture and protect. You got to do both.
Right.
I nurture it and I love on it, but at the same time, if I got to walk somebody off stage, they know I do it.
Yeah.
If I got to walk somebody at the room, they know I do it, to the point to where they warn people like, yo, man, don't do that. HB gonna come over here. You know, it's always fun and love, and I'm never disrespectful, even when I have to address a conflict.
Yeah.
Even being disrespectful, you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to, even if I gotta really eat you alive. You know what I mean? I still treat you like a man.
Yeah, I've seen you craft some beautiful exit speeches in the years that I've known you. So, man, I appreciate really just so much of this time. Yeah, it's dope. It's dope. I want to touch on one thing, which this is an ask. Um, we if there was one of your pieces that you were willing to bleed on the screen for us, which one would you drop for us right now?
Well, you talked about no sick days so much. I believe that would probably be I think that would be fair. And I even just sent it to you in the chat. So you
Oh,
always
man, thank you. Yeah. I want to hear that.
okay. All right, without a doubt. Well, this is called No Sick Days. And I remember reciting this right after my uncle Sonny passed away.
Mm.
We were actually in Chicago doing our conference, and I was asked to write something. And this is from a leadership standpoint, and I was surrounded by so many leaders. And my goal is to talk about the things, speaking the words left unspoken,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like my first group, Unspoken Word, with me and Aaron. But what are the things not being touched on that we struggle with? So that's where No Sick Days came from. And anyone in the leadership world would appreciate it. And I mean, even in your family or as a parent or
Yeah.
big brother or something, big sister. No sick days. I used to cry a lot until I realized my tears are the physical evidence of my pain, a visual reference used to shame me, or a destroyer of hope and faith if seen by those who praise me, who think I'm amazing. Oh no, it can't be. Did he cry? The sky must be falling. He's so strong. What could be so wrong to have him bawling? Then panic ensues. Showing weakness is the most irresponsible thing I can do. And it's not fair. But Superman doesn't get sick days. So I'm socially lonely, like a half dozen being split 6 ways. Lois Lane does what she can, but she's only human, and I'm Superman. And heroes don't get to be depressed, no matter how we're pressed. I've been accused of always being on, but they don't realize heroes don't get to clock out. I don't get to go home. They can't see how many people would turn off if I'm not turned on. So if my heart breaks, I put on my face and I do my job. I used to cry often until I realized how many plug into me instead of plugging into the outlet. I'm just an extension cord used by those who ain't figured it out yet. If I go, people lose power. When it's good, I bask in the praise. So I'm not mad that Superman doesn't get sick days. It's what I signed up for. It's all I know. But I'm still trying to figure it out. I used to cry all the time. But now, even if I want to, it only happens on the inside. I used to wake up screaming about demons that visited me while I was dreaming. And they're still there. They just don't scare me. Because I survived long enough to realize people are much scarier. And I end up handling others people's business like I was a mail carrier. But if I don't do it, it won't get done. If I don't spin it, how will the world get spun? A leader who shows vulnerability will momentarily be shown sympathy, but eventually their respect will wear down, wearing down the leader's ability to lead them around, and everyone loses. When it comes to emotional expression, everyone chooses, but the hero. It's already predetermined. So we have to walk our life like we're non-verbally preaching a sermon, because everybody's watching, waiting, ready to interpret the hero's actions as gospel. Can't even be hostile to obstacles. Anger is out of control. Sadness is uncomfortable to see in someone they call to relieve their misery. They used to call me crybaby, but I ain't cried lately. Not since I considered that God blessed me so I could serve others. And if that's the case, just because I'm hurting don't mean they get to suffer. It's not fair, but it's the only way. If I want to be treated like a hero, I have to accept Superman will never get sick days. Peace.
Thank you. That's strong. And I love that this is where we're ending, because I truly believe this speaks to Biggie's song, right? You know, Suicidal Thoughts. It speaks to I think, and you help me here, but the internals of somebody that doesn't know how to express. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think so. And what people need to, what's important is that in poetry, at least mine, it's not that everything is exactly how I said, like a leader can't show vulnerability, but it's how I felt.
yeah.
So it's more about the feeling of the moment
Yeah.
and being honest than it is about this is how the world actually is. No, this is how I'm seeing the world in that moment of pain or vulnerability or what have you.
Yeah.
Right? So some of the things in the poems are fallacies. They're not true, but it's how I felt. And guess what? It's how a lot of people feel.
Yeah.
It's more about connection than guidance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it comes to that. But yeah, you're right. You're right. I think it speaks to those who may not know how to express it.
Yeah. That's I'm like no words right now. This is strong. One, I get to hear some of my favorite pieces. One of my favorite pieces from you.
Gentlemen.
But it's just powerful. I will say this: my content, I think I'm mostly lighthearted. At least what I've brought to the platform thus far is really lighthearted. But I was very intentional about bringing this subject because of how this year started with some of the news of people that passed away due to suicide.
Yeah, the numbers are skyrocketing.
Yeah.
And especially in the Black community,
Mm-hmm.
you know, especially with girls.
Yeah.
And bringing to light how it affects men who are older,
Mm-hmm.
age and beyond, right? 80%
Yeah.
of all suicides are men over the age of, I think, 45 or 50.
Mm.
And the group with the highest risk from a percentage standpoint are men over 80. Right. So it doesn't go away as you get older. It could often get worse. So, and that's not even mentioning, you know, the numbers that have gone up amongst Black adolescents. You know, it's just the numbers are up. I don't want to give a wrong number.
Right. I respect that.
Girls from 12 to 17, you know, Black adolescents. I'm talking about numbers that are now higher than our other racial counterparts, and that was unheard of, right? From the traditional definition of what constitutes suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So no, this was, I applaud you. I appreciate you. I just spoke at a church Wednesday, one of the biggest churches here in Phoenix, and I got to give them a shout out, Kingdom of the Valley, with Pastor Steele and Mrs. Steele. And, you know, they said from the stage, go get therapy. Prayer is incredible, but get some therapy. And
Absolutely.
medication is the right move. Do that as well. You need more than prayer. And to see a pastor say that from the pulpit, and now you being willing to take on this conversation is super important. Hopefully it'll normalize it. It'll help knock the stigma off of mental health and even suicidal ideation and the other things that go along with that, right, on the peripheral of this particular topic. Hopefully it does that, and hopefully it allows us to have conversations about it that ain't that deep.
Yeah.
So, you know, hope these conversations, me and my boy, right, who relate to us, we make jokes about it. You know what I mean? We talk right, like, ooh, the darkness is on me, brother. You know what I mean? Like, because I still go through it. I still have my episodes. You know,
gotcha.
Forever. Yeah. Episodes haven't gone.
Yeah.
They're just shorter and not as frequent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a constant journey, man. It is, but you're doing good work here. And I applaud you for utilizing your platform to do something so crucial, so very crucial.
Man, I appreciate it, big bro. I didn't even get to try. I want us to end this because it gives us an opportunity for you to come back. I didn't get to talk about Arizona. We still got to set up a date for me to come out there and kick it with
March
you.
13th.
March 13th. Let's lock that down, man.
Celebrating my 30 years as a poet, and I'm doing a home base. So you get to come and kick it and actually come to home base.
That sounds fire.
That's on your bucket list. Yeah,
that's fire. Listen, that sounds fire, man. I appreciate your time, the willingness to be vulnerable and sharing, and really, for those that are watching and listening right now, listen, music and nostalgia is way more than just the fun, poppy, and silly stuff. We want to touch lives, and we want to make sure we talk about things that can help us elevate, right? And if there's something that I feel should be brought, I'll bring it to you. This episode with my big bro, HB, Harold Branch, has been really eye-opening for me because I had no knowledge, only aside from what I've seen online and heard on the news, which is tainted. Hearing the perspective of somebody that knows and has seen is so great. So for those of you, if you're having any concerns, like if there are any thoughts, feelings, seek counseling, seek a trusted friend that can get you to the resources you need, but also look for counseling. Prayer still works. So don't think we're saying don't do that. But in addition, right, let's go out there and get the help we need. Love you guys. I appreciate you. Yes, sir.
You know, let me throw the national hotline, suicide prevention hotline, in case you're in a crisis right now.
Yeah.
Like hurting yourself, or you think you're going to hurt someone else. There's no shame in seeking it out, right? Seeking out that help. Even if you're not sure, still seek it. 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. And you know, you're gonna call from your phone. They all smartphones. You could just Google it. If you don't want nobody to be able to see your history on that, just create a private page and look it up.
Yeah.
But definitely look it up and make the phone call. Don't even give your name, but talk to somebody.
Absolutely.
You're not by yourself, man. You're not alone. This world will do everything it can to break you. And just know you're not by yourself with any of the decisions that you're doing. Everyone else just ain't talking about it, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Talking about it. That's why I talk about it.
Yeah. Bro, I love it. I hope you guys enjoy this. Music and nostalgia is going to keep rocking. And just know this, no matter the subject, we're willing to tackle it because we know that there's nostalgia in every aspect of our lives. So music and nostalgia is here to stay. So remember this, no matter your path, no matter your challenges, the joy is truly always in the journey. All right. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you, bro.
Love you, bro. Peace.